Good afternoon, good morning. Depends upon where you are in this world. Where I am in this world is in the conference room of the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Training Division in Miami, Florida. I'm Bill Gustin, and I'm going to be the moderator for today, a special edition of the Hangout. And it is because we have two distinguished guests that are going to be examining a very serious problem that only seems to be getting worse. And this is the lithium-ion powered scooters and other devices that are causing a rash of not only fires, but fatal fires and extra alarm fires. So if I can make some other, before that, let me just mention our good friends at Key Hose. That's keyhose.com. Don't go cheap on hose. Every grade of Key Hose is the best you can get. Just recently, I had my hands on some FDNY spec Key Hose, and it's very robust. I believe it's basically they're combat ready. I always say this at every one of these hangouts: take the key challenge, try to kink Key Hose. You're going to be hard pressed to kink Key Hose. So we have with us today Sam Hiddle from Wichita, Kansas. Sam, are you there, handsome? He may have had to.
I'm here.
Okay. All right. There you are, Sam. There you are, Sam. Sam, is that the hat you use when you're peddling newspapers out on the street? That's looking good.
That's
man.
it. That was a lucky guess.
That is looking good. And then a good friend of mine and a mentor, a guy that I've learned a lot from, is Jack Murphy. Jack Murphy. I was mixing him up with Jerry Tracy.
Yes, you were.
Yes. Okay. Jack, could you tell a little bit about yourself?
I'll accept Jack Tracy. All right, better than Dick Tracy, you know. Yeah. Just fire marshal, retired deputy chief. Worked for years out in New York City, and just left running the high-rise fire safety directors in New York City. So I just retired from that. So I'm full-time at my desk, consulting.
And what's the status of your book with Chief Jerry Tracy?
It's in the galleys.
Okay.
So we went through the copy edit. That's done right now in the galleys, and we're hoping and praying that it's ready for the FDIC. And I think Mr. Holton can address that when he gets on.
All right, and I'm going to make a recommendation to our viewers that if you ever can attend a class co-taught by Jack Murphy and Jerry Tracy, the friggin' chemistry between these two guys is amazing, because the high-rise fire protection problem is not just an issue of stretching hose off of a standpipe. It's controlling the systems, controlling the occupants, and there's so much more that encompasses the high-rise protection problem. And so both of these guys look at it from a code enforcement, which is a huge part of this, and the other focuses on tactics and strategy. But put these two guys together, they're an unbeatable combination. So I'm looking forward to our discussion, Jack, and then we have another distinguished guest that will be with us shortly. He just finished a memorial service for the FDNY, and that is Deputy Chief Dan Murray, and our topic is going to be the lithium-ion problem with the scooters and other small devices, both in New York City and nationwide. Peter, could you go ahead and run that video? This is just a taste of what these guys are experiencing almost every day in New York City. This is some scary stuff, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not steam. That is nasty, very poisonous and explosive gases. And this isn't just an isolated incident. This is happening all over the place. Okay, let's put that up in an apartment on the 10th floor. And let's add about 3 or 4 more of those scooters. You got one hell of a fire problem then. And Jack, if I could, on a related topic, we've now learned an additional hazard of lithium-ion batteries, and it has to do with the saltwater intrusion with the EVs, electric vehicles, as a result of the flooding and the hurricane on the west coast of Florida. So, Jack, I know that you've been heavily involved in this, and from your standpoint, can you kind of weigh in on your observations and where we as a fire service are headed and where we need to head?
Yeah. Okay. Well, first I'll start with that. You know, a few years ago at the fire academy in the city, we had the NFPA through, and we were talking about lithium-ion batteries, basically these bulk storage ones, these BESS systems.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, these mobile bikes started to creep into the picture. So the fire safety directors were in constant communication during COVID now, these crazy remote meetings you have about when we come back about a policy for office buildings with the mobile devices. So as we went through that and everything, and this January at our annual meeting with the department, talking to Chief Jordan and everything, they were coming up with things, the issues they were having with the residentials, right? That's where the bulk of the stuff is. And there are some commercial stores where these fires started also. And I'm pretty sure I'll let Chief Murray address those things. All right. But the idea is that we needed a policy. The fire directors felt that while they did one for the residentials, all right, it wasn't strong enough for us. And so what it was is that many of my buildings property management teams created a policy that's enforced. You can bring it into the building. It's limited to the quote unquote the bike storage room, basically in a garage or the lower level, that's fully sprinkled. You can't charge it there, but you have to store it there. When you go home, just take it with you. Our policy is, because you saw that bike there, I saw another one in an elevator where the thing ignited. As soon as the door closed, the elevator door closed, and then the thing started on fire. So our policy is controllable for us. Residentials is another thing. You know, and right now, the issues with residentials is that there's a good article, excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. So it's a good article in the NFPA Journal this fall. The bikes are definitely an alternative transportation mode, particularly in urban settings for deliveries. They're all over the place. Wow, that's a nice attack. All right. The other thing here is that while there are bikes out there that are UL listed, these companies that do that are all for having them what we call a charger that's UL listed too. Some of these chargers they buy are inferior. I have a rated bike with a rated battery. Now I buy a charger that's not rated. So UL came up with several things. One is UL 22, which is micro mobile devices. Another one is 2489, what they're calling battery management system for the pedestal assist devices to monitor and prevent overheating. Excuse me. Billy,
I know you're feeling bad, but Jack,
I'm going to shut the mic off.
But you know what it is, Jack? You're supposed to spit that tobacco out, not swallow it. My son had a question. He's in a business that sells lithium-ion devices, and he mentioned to me, and the code that they use is UL 2056 for these portable energy producing devices, micro photovoltaic devices, and enough to charge your cell phone, I guess. And his standard is 2056, but he told me that Amazon is absolutely adamant that they are not storing, they are not shipping anything that does not have a UL rating in terms of the batteries. Now, the chargers, Jack, I don't know.
There are so many black market issues out there, you know, where they come in, you know, basically from us across the sea. They come in and they have all the appearances of it. They have a UL label on it and everything, and they're out there. And it's kind of hard for the consumer products people to reel all these things in. So you might get one of these great bikes that meet all the requirements, all right? But to maintain it is another thing. And they get to be costly in the way of the charges and things of that nature. So I understand people trying to get cheaper products or something to help them out. The other thing we found is that with these mobile scooters, smaller devices, and the hoverboards, people were taking them into their apartments and charging them, and then charging a fee for people. So we had a couple of fires where there were multiple things in the one apartment. One that comes to me, it was a high-rise fire in Lower Manhattan. It was on YouTube. Two kids came out the window, I think on the 8th to 7th floor. And if it wasn't for the gas pipe attached to the outside, they would have died. They shimmied down the gas pipe. The father died in that fire, and I think the mother was severely burnt. I don't know if she died later. But they were charging these bikes in the apartment. So while I understand where it's coming from, you know, for mobility, and cities want to go green and have all these bikes all over the place. To me, it's like the industry pushes these things out there without solutions. And we in the fire service have to find the solutions, sometimes the hard way. All right. So the chief will get on and say, copious amounts of water. I agree with that. All right. But those are small devices. All right. So the thing here is that you get cars too, like you said down below. In Europe, they created a flatbed truck with an open container on it and have a crane on it and pick the car up and submerge it in the container with water. So that's for the big things. The small things, you know, there's so many out there, it's outrageous. All right. So it just, the decomposition, like you said, of things, hydrofluoric acid, vapors out there, the hydrogen gas, carbon dioxide, things of that nature. And again, the knockoffs not being certified. I see that Chief Murray came on. Go ahead.
Before we bring on Chief Murray, one last question. Are you telling me that you can have the UL rated batteries? You can have the UL rated vehicle, but if you connect it to a cheap knockoff charger, that could precipitate a thermal runaway?
Yes, and what I saw with these bike companies, that they want the added value of the test of their charger, not someone else's. So they will sell you the package. Here's the bike, here's the charger. All right. So if you're going to replace that charger for something, replace it with their brand and their type. All right. Not the other things out there that, you know, it's like cell phones, guys. They're all over the place. You know, every 2 years they're changing. I went to your area, Bill. I just got back a flip phone. Okay. They're out again. So you can't keep up with this stuff. So with that, I would like to, they'll push it back to you, and Chief Murray's here. I don't know how long he can stay. So
yeah, I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me.
We hear you, Dan.
Okay. You hear me now?
Yes, we do, Chief.
Okay. I couldn't get the video to work.
Not a problem, not a problem.
Just, I guess, Jack asked me to come on. I can give a good overview of what we're dealing with in New York City. I really think New York City has become the test laboratory for these batteries, just because it's the tremendous size of our population, over 8 million residents, and the congested streets, the micromobility. We kind of divide our battery problems into three categories: micromobility, which would be your e-bikes, your scooters. We include wheelchairs in that. The hoverboards, which were a big thing for a while, and there's all kinds of devices that we put into that category, and that's the bulk of our problems. And then there's the electric vehicles. There's plenty of Teslas and all those other companies, GM, Ford, Volvo, have their electric cars, which we've had very few problems with, because they're just very well manufactured. Everything's pretty tight with these companies. Like, when we had the Chevy Volt having issues, I'm sure that set, Chevy, massive company, GM, back against their competition tremendously. So they're really tight. And then the third category is the large scale energy storage systems, which we have coming online. These are used by the utilities, by big companies, industry, and also what's coming online all around the world are in even private dwellings. They'll have, a small energy storage system in their house. You see it a lot with homes with solar panels on the roof. They want to generate electricity through the sun, and they want to be able to store it in case there's a power failure. You also see the energy storage systems being used for continuity of power, like, especially for years we've had it, like the banks, like Deutsche Bank. I remember being in there. They had lead acid batteries as their backup, so they wouldn't have any issues in the event of a power failure. They're trying to transfer all that to lithium-ion batteries, just because it works a lot better. So to get to the bulk of our issue in the fire service, like I said, is the e-bikes and the scooters, and that's where we have poor quality and misused batteries. And the question came up about, is it well built? Is everything according to UL standard? And we're finding, if somebody has a bike that they bought from Specialized that has a battery built into it, and they're using it properly, they're storing it properly, they're not altering the batteries, they're using the right charging cord, and it's the original batteries, we have less of a problem. However, I would say the bulk of our problems are with the delivery workers. They alter their products. They use replacement batteries. Because they're working all day long doing deliveries. It's enabled them to extend the distance they can deliver food, to make more money for the restaurant. And they'll hot swap battery packs during the day. They'll pull out a battery pack, and I've looked at these, and I was recently at a kind of a grassroots meeting that is a group called Los Deliveriosos that represents the food delivery industry and the delivery workers, and they were saying, yeah, their batteries, they're not UL, they're bought off of Alibaba or wherever they get them on the internet, and they're not designed to be used the way they're being used. They also alter the battery management system on the bike so they can get more power out of it. They're charging them, not as designed, and that's where we're running into failures. The fire that Jack mentioned, where the kids had to go out the window down on the Lower East Side, that guy actually was running his own battery and e-bike repair shop in this apartment building on the on the upper floor of the building, and one of the batteries went into thermal runaway, we determined, and the flammable gases built up, and it actually blew down a non-bearing wall in the apartment. That's how powerful the explosion was. The caller was from 2 floors above the fire, heard an explosion. And then that wound up blocking the means of egress for his kids who had to go out the window. The guy who was working on the batteries was killed instantly by the explosion. So there's always this debate on, how can we have these people charge their batteries in a safe way? And that's a bit of a problem, because for lower income people, this e-bike is like a capital investment for them. So they don't want to leave it outside because it will be stolen. And they have no place to charge it outside. So they bring it into their apartment. And where do you think they have it charging? Right by the front door. So if it does go into thermal runaway, means of egress are instantly eliminated. And that's where we've wound up having several fatalities in the last year. People are trapped, and the fire grows so quickly that there's no time for anyone to escape past the fire. And then, we talk about extinguishing, like Jack said, it's, copious amounts of water. That's really all we got right now. Other mediums like foam don't have any effect on it. It's just a waste of product. So really, it's just you want to be able to cool the battery down. Our units, we've been training our companies. We put out a procedure on these types of batteries, and we instruct them as soon as they knock down the fire, if they can put them into a bathtub full of water or into a bucket full of water until Hazmat arrives to overpack. That's what we're recommending they do. And they're getting on board. It seems like almost every fire, not every fire, but almost a majority of fires now, not necessarily caused by the batteries, but there are generally some kind of batteries in the apartment. Pretty much everybody has something battery powered now, whether it's an e-bike or scooter or even like an electric drill or something. And we have our guys responding and overpacking, and then the whole removal process, and it's become a burden, I would say, for the fire service. And I think it certainly has increased the amount of fire duty our guys are seeing.
Hey, Chief.
Yeah.
Chief, could I throw something in there? Something I know you guys are doing, but I think it's worth mentioning when you talk about that they're putting them in the tubs, that you guys are keeping guys in air packs until air monitoring can be accomplished.
Yes. And that's, I don't know. I'm assuming you have a background in the fire service. So I don't know who the audience is here.
Yes. Sam is a captain with the Wichita Fire Department.
Okay. Yeah. So Sam, you know how it is with the guys. As soon as the fire is knocked down and the windows are vented and they got to start the overhaul process, usually the masks come off and, they're working, doing what they do. So it's a little tough to kind of get the guys on board when they have confirmation of batteries in the room that they're operating in to keep their masks on, because, like that video that you guys showed earlier is a great demonstration of how quickly that thermal runaway can occur. It's within seconds, the room's engulfed in fire. And then what we try to teach the guys is, how long does it take you to put your tools down and get your face piece on? And nobody can do it that quickly. We time probies. So by the time you get that mask on, you're already you're in a bad spot. And it's not just the fire, it's the gases that are produced during when the battery fails. Some of these gases are extremely toxic, hydrogen fluoride and all these things, really bad stuff for the members to be inhaling. So we are teaching the guys, once you find batteries, it's part of your secondary search now. Try to take a good look for them. If you see an e-bike or a scooter, before you start pulling the ceilings and covering everything up with sheetrock, let's see if we can gather up those batteries with guys on air, wearing their hoods and gloves, using a shovel. Don't use your hands. Put them into a bucket, full of water or a bathtub or something like that, and put it to the side. And then when hazmat arrives, which is usually pretty quick, our members can, respond to the apartment or the fire area with metal drums and cell block, and we overpack them and we take care of it from there.
Yeah,
But it's a learning curve, like everything.
Chief, we watched the airline industry hosted a couple of demonstrations on that product, cell block, which is essentially, I believe, like a granulated glass. And am I correct in saying that Hazmat uses those drum plugs that they have on your job, on your Hazmat units?
No, we don't use their drums. They do sell a drum that it's like a double wall drum that has cell block in between the inner outer wall.
Mm-hmm.
We use regular metal drums that we use for our usual hazmat calls that has a bung hole in it, so we can leave the bung hole off in case there's off gassing, so the barrel doesn't expand. And cell block is the material that we found to be most effective so far. We're always on the look for a new product, but that seems to be what we're using and other departments are using. And there's methods to overpacking it to have it surrounded by a certain amount of cell block depending on the size of the battery. So our guys will show up and we'll cut the battery part away from the bike. We come up with a small hydraulic tool or a sawzall, and we'll make it as small as possible, isolate the battery pack, overpack it in cell block. And then we have an arrangement with our Department of Sanitation who removes it to a holding area where a contractor then responds and takes it away for recycling. But it's a process. We're still developing it. It's multi-agency, and it always comes down to who pays for everything, which we're working on.
Chief, can I ask you about products that have been advertised, such as these micelle encapsulators, these wetting agents that supposedly are more effective than water on these batteries? Have you had any experience with that?
We haven't found anything, and I know there's certain companies out there that advertise. We haven't found them to be of any use. It's basically the cooling effect of water seems to be our best medium right now.
Hey, Chief.
Yeah.
A question on the bikes again. All right.
Sure.
Over the years, like you said, we had these devices, cell phones, laptops, and everything else. And pretty soon we're going to go into these BES systems into the big buildings. All right. My question is, on the mobile bikes, could the wear and tear of using these in the streets have any contributing factor for a fire? We're not getting them, like you said before, very few on laptops, power tools, and things like that. But are we looking into the wear and tear of the street?
That definitely has an effect. The streets of New York are tough. These guys are using them around all day long. I don't think the manufacturers anticipated that kind of use. And mechanical damage to a battery cell is one of the main ways that we have failure, because they're really, no matter who produces these batteries, whether it's UL or a counterfeit, the slightest damage to the separator that separates the anode and cathode in each cell causes it's pretty much guaranteed thermal runaway. And then the battery next to it, you get that it spreads to the entire battery pack, and you could have 60 battery cells on an e-bike, and once they get going, the propagation is immediate, pretty much.
Yeah. And you hit on one thing just briefly on decommissioning, how that's a longer process these days with this stuff. Could you just talk about the bike store fire you had? Because that was a rekindle a little later. Now you have to go through decommissioning, and maybe with a sanitation company other than the city too, right?
Yes, that was, like I said, we've been in the learning process. The rekindle, it was an e-bike store. Units responded. They knocked the fire down. They dragged all the affected batteries out. They thought they dragged the affected batteries out. We had a contractor come in who wasn't vetted. He was a hazmat contractor and said, yeah, this is hazmat, we can do it. He showed up with bags of sand for overpacking, which we disagree with that method. We left a watch line, an engine company in place. The contractor showed up, told the engine company we got it. They left, and then the results were a fully involved store. There was actually a cop on the scene who saw a little smoke. He went in with an extinguisher, trying to do the right thing, and this place took off so quick. He almost got killed. So now we've gotten more diligent, where we take the batteries out, we overpack them properly, and we have sanitation to the removal. Although, we'd like to evolve to the point where we have licensed contractors who are approved by the city that can respond quickly and maybe take some of that responsibility away from us.
Okay, we're a little bit past the halfway point here now. I just wanted to mention our good friends at Key Hose. That's keyhose.com. Chief Murray, I recently got my hands on the Key FDNY spec, which has a rather robust jacket. I was very impressed with it. It's kind of a great story. Key used to be made in Miami, and the Key people came to us because my firehouse was in the area where that factory was. We didn't know anything about Key Hose. They wanted to test it, and the FDNY, your logistics people, came out, or research and development. I said, well, you're going to have adapters from national standard to whatever thread you fellas use. And it was nice. We had a great time. It bought everybody submarine sandwiches for lunch. And it was just a great bonding with your guys. Just spare it a moment. Now, our department is exclusively Key Hose. And where this becomes critical is we have these buildings, as you do, Chief Murray, these buildings that are these pencil buildings that each floor is its own residential unit, and flaking the excess hose out, whether you do it in the stairway or the apartment below, it's a problem. You definitely have to have hose that is relatively kink resistant, because you're going to be stretching it in less than ideal and less spacious areas than you normally would in a conventional hallway. Chief, so I'm impressed that you reached out to the organization that represents the food delivery folks. And this seems to be a pattern, and I know that's something that Jack has really been good at, is that it's never just putting out a fire. It's not just fire suppression. It's demographics. It's public relations, public education. We had a fire the other day, and for years we've had trailer parks where it's because it's such a common problem in the Caribbean and in the Central and South America, with folks having a 20-pound LP cylinder in a cabinet or right next to their stove. Well, this is happening more and more and more as more homes, garages especially, are being subdivided. And God knows you've had some horrible experience with illegal single room occupancies. I know it's a little bit off topic, but are you seeing more of these as the population is rising? Are you seeing more of these SROs, either legal or illegal, in your city?
Yeah, the SROs have been a big problem for us over the years. Like you said, we've had some pretty tragic fires because of them. I think, you know, I'm a little removed from fire operations on that end of it, but you know, I've worked in all these areas over the years, and it seems to me like the FDNY has really aggressively pursued these, because you know, we do wind up, you know, on our regular responses or on our building inspections, we come across these and we try to deal with them as quickly as we can. We bring in our fire prevention people and our Department of Buildings people, and we try to take corrective measures. Like you said, we try to work with the community. We have a really good relationship with the residents of New York City. You know, it's one of the most diverse cities. It's the most diverse city in the world, really, all the languages and cultures. So we have you know, tried to work with people. We know people need a place to live, like it is with the e-bikes. We know, you know, it's here. The technology is here. Parked on a street corner right now, and the e-bikes are going by one after the other. It's how people get around. We don't want to take that from anybody, but we want to, like you said, the public, the fire safety education angle is probably the most important thing to deal with these things. I'm on a committee right now where we actually are making final approvals on a poster that's going to be posted in several languages all over the city on battery safety. So hopefully things like that start pushing people in the right direction, because it's really, it's abuse and misuse of equipment that is driving most of our problems.
Chief, just recently there was a huge hurricane affected the Southeast, especially Florida, and we found a problem with the electric vehicles and the saltwater intrusion. Have you found that you salt the streets there in the wintertime in New York City? Have you found that the salt on the streets hastens the deterioration of these batteries in these bikes?
We don't really do a engineering type of forensic investigation afterwards. I would assume that the, you know, weather, not just salt, but the hot, the cold, this direct sunlight has an effect on the batteries. But I can't really speak to that. It would make sense.
Okay. And I have a friend of mine that mentioned to me, is it correct for me to say that in certain government housing that you don't have to pay for the electricity, therefore it's kind of a profitable proposition to have an apartment full of these bikes on charge? Is that correct?
That is correct. And some people have made, you know, they make a little side hustle charging batteries for, you know, these delivery people. We also found instances where they'll rent out a hotel room and you walk in and there's extension cords and power strips all over the place, and they're, you know, using that electricity. You know, for $100 a night in a hotel, you can, if you're charging $15 to charge a battery, or what, I don't know what they charge, but we've run into that situation as well. And, you know, obviously the extension cords and the power strips, they're all being purchased at the dollar store. None of this stuff is UL rated.
Yeah, how many amps? I mean, just generally speaking, in fact, Sam could probably answer this because he's a pretty astute guy, Sam Hiddle. How many amps do these chargers pull when you're charging these batteries on these bikes?
I can't speak to the bikes. We don't have the same problems that New York City does, so we don't see as many of the bikes. The problems that we've had are floor cleaners. We've even had forklifts give us problems, wheelchairs. Basically, in my opinion, we're in the infancy of this. And as Chief Murphy already alluded to, we haven't even got to the counterfeit stuff or the low quality branding. And when you look at, two of your top 5 reasons that these things go into thermal runaway, it's faulty management systems without thermal regulation, and then just quality issues. And sometimes even the good products are going to have a time delay with the quality issues as they get beat up and they get old. One of the things I wanted to mention, though, that the fire service is going to start to face is hydrogen can mimic CO. So we're running a lot more CO calls where it just ends up being a battery that's starting to heat up during its charging. One of the things that we've noted is we get small traces of methane that goes along with that.
Is this lead acid or is this lithium ion, Sam?
These are for your lithium batteries. You have all different types of lithium batteries. The unfortunate thing is one of the least safe lithium batteries that you can have actually has the highest energy and power output. And so they generally trade that for safety, and we generally find those batteries in our smaller devices. Like Chief Murray alluded to, there's good regulation that goes along with like the EV cars and your higher end products, but eventually higher end product technology trickles down to low end products.
I see. So how about incidents in Wichita, Sam?
To tell you the truth, most of what we see is just the CO calls. And I will throw this out, when we get a car smoking in a garage, we've got to start investigating in air packs as well because of those gases that have already been brought up during this webcast.
Okay.
We're going to have to change our tactics.
Going to be one of the biggest takeaways from this hangout is that is not steam that's coming off those batteries. That is, as Chief Murray said, that is some toxic, flammable, and explosive gases, like you said, Chief Murray, the hydrogen fluoride.
Yeah. Hey, Sam, I want to revisit your comment on wheelchairs, the mobile wheelchairs. A lot of senior citizen buildings all over the place. A lot of these mobile devices. Any particular cause for the wheelchairs that you know of?
The last one we had was down in South City, and they were getting a high CO and they couldn't pinpoint what it was. And so they got to it and got it unplugged before it became a problem.
Okay. All right.
I'm worrying out loud that we're going to get one of these giant fulfillment centers that's loaded with these robots. And they're going to line them up and charge them. And I don't know if an EFSR sprinkler system of any discharge density is going to be able to control a thermal runaway of multiple robots that are on charge.
I agree with you, Bill. I don't think so either. We can't control fires in the what do you call it, the stores now that are big box stores with the ESFRs, And let me just say this, right now we're being battle tested for these e-bikes, all right? Battle tested for these, not too much in occupancies, but some. But now when you get to the bigger ones, like Chief Murray will talk a little bit about, I want him to talk on a little bit about the best systems, is the battery energy storage systems. You're asking me to retrofit my building and put these large battery storage rooms in there. So when the electric company decides to shunt some of the power, we pick up that lack. But if I'm using copious amounts of water, and this is on the 9th floor, where's the water going? And does the building owner have any idea that there's a lot of contamination that's going to come after this fire? Dan, we haven't had any issues in the buildings yet with these big systems, right? Basically, we're doing what a lot of California, everything, we have them outside in the containers.
Yes. Yeah, we have, I've went over to do site visits on, one of them it was a Con Edison run facility. And it was like it was for peak it's a peak usage. Forget the term they use, but you know, if on a hot day,
right,
everyone's got their ACs going, they'll kick in with these. I think there were like 8 Connex box size units, but they have them in a, you know, pretty remote area where there's some room. They do have a it was some kind of extinguishing system they had. They have deflagration panels on the top, so if it does explode, it'll go up. Seemed like a pretty safe system with an alarm system, a panel like at the entrance to the lot. As far as putting them into buildings, that is something that we know is coming. We're trying to deal with it. I wish I had one of my chiefs, Mike Mays. He kind of grabbed the bull by the horn on these energy storage systems, and he could tell you a lot more about where we are and where we're going with that.
I know they were looking at limited heights, you know, and trying to keep it street side. I thought I saw something, nothing greater than the 9th floor, or at least one of them up there. And the lower floors, you can have several. So those are what I call the retrofits. At least with new buildings, you know, I can put it on a roof setback or something like that. But once I start throwing them into existing buildings, just think of the Empire State Building, the number of mechanical spaces they have there. Now we're trying to backfeed these things. So for me, it's you know, we testified to this in 2017 at the Academy of you know, what we're going to inherit, and I know everybody's trying to come up with, quote, a real solution for it other than copious amounts of water.
Well, Jack, I think one thing is for certain, and it goes with cellulose insulation and energy efficient windows and weather stripping, that the terms green and sustainable are not always the firefighter's friend.
Yeah, I say green is sometimes red for us. You have to watch
job security.
Yes, it is. and this is just the tip of the iceberg, what they're going to be throwing at us down the road. It really is, you know. So, it's challenging times. Always has been in the fire service. So,
yeah, we got a lot of things coming our way. Right now, the cruise ship industry, which New York City is a big cruise port, they're looking to use LNG to fuel all these because it's cleaner than the bunker, right? So they want to do fuel these cruise ships, you know, because they have a quick turnover time. You know, they pull in, they discharge passengers, they load it up with food, and they want to be fueling it, and they want to do this in heavily populated areas, you know. So it's just another thing. Like, it's coming. We're not thrilled about it, but we're going to have to deal with it.
Well, Chief, we have a state a railroad that runs on the East Coast, Florida East Coast Railroad, and right behind the locomotives is looks like a little tank car. Well, it's a cryogenic LNG tender, and I don't know how they vaporize it to a gas, but they somehow converted these diesel engines from you know, compression to some kind of spark ignition, I guess. So we're starting to see it here with the I mean, definitely we've got compressed natural gas on the roofs of our transit buses everywhere, and the only thing metallic on the whole friggin' cylinder, which I think is pressurized to about 3,600 psi, is the valve assembly. Everything else is, you know, it's the carbon fiber composite. Well, it's been wrapped, but and I'm sure you see that in New York City as well. The CNG powered vehicles.
Yeah, we've had them for a while. Buses. I mean, there have been incidents around the world with them. We haven't had any major problems in that area yet, but you know, you gotta prepare.
Well, one thing is for certain, you know, I've been a firefighter 49 years, and you know, we're not none of us on this hangout today are kids, but we're all students. And it just goes to show you just the things that we're talking about right now. We have people in the fire service that haven't learned a damn thing since they left the academy as a recruit. And I don't care if you aspire to be an officer or not. To me, you got a responsibility to the people you work with, to your family, to keep abreast of these things. Like, for instance, who knows today or tomorrow or next week, there's going to be a firefighter that is going to don his mask or her mask when they see that steamy off-gassing, because they realize now how dangerous and toxic it truly is. So it goes to show you, you can never, because like Jack said, we're being battle tested. We're being put to the test all the time. I recently attended a conference. I understand that the deaths are up about 25%. Compared to what? I don't know, fire deaths. Also, property damage is way up from what it used to be. I think like 75%. So whoever said that fires are down, yeah, maybe compared to the war years in the South Bronx and South Side and West Side of Chicago, but fires, at least in Miami-Dade County, they are not down. And there's another factor to consider. Today, in the neighborhood where I live, if I have a fire in my kitchen, how long is it going to take the first company to get there and gridlock traffic? It's going to take a good 20 minutes for that first company to get there. So that's another factor that I think we're thinking. There's so many challenges that are coming up. God knows we now have to face the fact that we could take a bullet as a firefighter, because the public is not going to tolerate the firefighters standing by while the cops make a building squeaky clean while kids are bleeding to death. So that's another occupational hazard. So although we have better protective gear, and hopefully we're a little bit better educated, God knows we've gone a long way in our cancer prevention. Man, we can never stop learning. I didn't know what a thermal runaway was. Did I imagine that 5 years ago that we would have a session like this, just addressing these lithium-ion powered scooters or bikes? So it's an ever-evolving technology, and we're part of it. Chief Murray, I'm really thrilled that you came on. You have a lot of experience with this. What happens in New York City, and to a same extent, maybe Los Angeles eventually ends up in what we call flyover country. If you're experiencing it now, it's coming to a suburb near you, especially with the rise in the immigrant population. Hey, we're just about out of time. Did you have any final thoughts or any other advice, Chief Murray, for our viewers?
Yeah, I mean, just to follow up on what you just said, a lot of fire departments don't think they've had battery fires, but they probably have. They may not have figured it out after extinguishment. But the main thing is, like you said, training. That's you got to keep. You got to stay in the books. You got to, read all the professional publications that are around and stay on top of things. And I'm generally very impressed when I meet guys from all the other fire departments around the country, big, small, how interested they are in this subject, because they're concerned and they want to protect their members.
Well, I really thank you for sharing your department's experiences with this. Sam, any final thoughts?
I would just say on the BEST systems, Ask questions. I know in one of our recent interactions with the electrical company, we were being sold that it's fine. We've introduced a F500 to the system, and we're not buying that, especially when you look at where the ports are and where the hydrofluoric comes out. These are very concerning to us. So ask questions. Don't just go off the sales pitch, and legitimately look at what's going to happen.
Oh, hey, do we have Darryl with us? Is he here? Is he here?
I was late. I was late to the party, but I made it.
Well, we're gonna need a note from your mommy because you were late. You're tardy. Did you get my email?
I sure did. Yes.
How about okay, good. And are you still at the epicenter of training for the Oakland Fire Department?
Yeah, I am here at the epicenter of training. And as far as training, a couple months ago, we had Tesla, because I'm in the land of Tesla here. The manufacturing plant is just south of Oakland down here in Fremont. And sometimes it seems like 20% of the cars on the road are a Tesla. But they did a terrific webcast for us. They didn't want it recorded, but I was very impressed with the knowledge that the company had of what we do. They talked about extrication and fires. They are at FDIC and they do a booth where they tear apart a Tesla. They're familiar with the trade magazines. One was even familiar with WNYF and fire engineering and all. But the one thing I would encourage people to do is reach out to these companies and see if they can do a class, but they do like collaboration with the fire service. So they know what we're doing and we know what they're doing to make things safer. I picked up this copious amounts of water, but they really harped on that. They in their testing, foam actually made things worse. And so they really focused on the copious amounts of water. But yeah, reach out to these companies and see what they can do for your department as far as giving you a Zoom session training or something like that.
Well, Sam, I'm glad you got a chance to come on board just for a few minutes anyway. So we could see your pretty face, if nothing else. So you never age, man. Look at me, I'm going to be 68 tomorrow. Look at my face. It looks like John Wayne's saddlebag, you know? I stood out in the sun too long. What can I tell you, man?
And like you said, 49 years in the fire service. That's amazing. And as far as people keeping abreast of things going on, I mean, you have to, there's no choice. There's so many things that come out and there's things that we're dealing with, all of us on this, that we could have never imagined when we started this fire service.
And Darryl,
to stay up at the time.
Fire dynamics. It's not just suppression operations. It's demographics. It's demographic. God knows you know about that. Chief Murray is well aware of how that affects our business. And we need to know our buildings, but we also need to know our clientele, the people that we serve, and the particular problems that they have and bring to the table, the challenges. So I want to give a shout out to Key Hose. That's keyhose.com. Again, take the key challenge, man. You can't kink that hose. And especially when we're dealing with trying to stretch in a confined area where you don't have a long hallway, all you got is an elevator lobby and like 2 apartment doors because of for exclusivity. It's a big building, but you have crossover floors, maybe at the 3rd, the 6th, the 9th. But other than that, you're taking an elevator basically to 2 or 3 apartments, for make it look a little bit more private. So I want to thank Chief Murray and Jack. Thank you so much for reaching out to Chief Murray. And hopefully we can, our paths will cross again. Jack, any final words?
No, but Chief Murray will probably be asking me to take him out to dinner next week, so I'll be good on that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I hate lobster.
So do I. I'm allergic to it.
Okay. Well, what's it going to be, Chief Murray? Burger King or McDonald's? Because you're going to narrow your choices with Jack.
Maybe Wendy's.
It'll be a web lunch probably, you know.
Well, hey, Sam, Chief Murray, Jack, God bless you. And you're a little bit under the weather.
Yeah.
But hey, I was looking forward to this and it certainly fulfilled my expectations. So God bless all of you guys. And until next month.
All right. And Bill, happy birthday from everybody. Happy birthday.
All right, Jack.
All right.
Brother.
Yeah, it requires 2 water cans.
Okay. Yeah. All right, everybody. God
Be safe.
bless.
Bye now.
We'll see you next month.
Okay.
Be safe, folks. Bye.